Hey guys, I'm pretty sure you must have come across the term sell side and buy side process in the investment banking space. So today in this video we are going to discuss as to what sell side and buy side processes are and how the entire set of activities to undertake, right? So let's get into it. So as we see over here, let us first look into the sell side part of it. There are different stages, roughly 6 stages. So the first stage is of internal preparation. Okay, so what's the time period? How long does it take for this internal preparation stage? It takes roughly 30 to 45 days. The documents which are prepared during this stage are in context of a teaser, which is generally a 3 to 4 page document talking of the opportunity in brief, the information memorandum, which is a detailed 50 to 75 page document, business plan, which is a detailed 25 to 30 page document, investor presentation for roadshow, which is roughly of 20 slides, and a detailed valuation model. How the process is undertaken? So the above documents will be prepared by investment bank with basic assistance from the client. Investment bank will provide a detailed information requirement list. Client needs to assist the investment bank to internally collect all the information that is required. IB will have various rounds of meetings and discussion with client's team to understand the business. IB also needs to plan well to ensure correctness and completeness of all the above documents. And also a plant or site visit is conducted. So this forms the stage 1 on the sales side. Now on the stage 2, we get to see that road shows happens, right? So road shows happens with investors. So this happens for a period of another 30 to 45 days. So identification of investors is a critical aspect that is looked into in this context. So IB together with the client will identify and shortlist investors who need to be approached with the proposal. The first contact with investors happen during this stage. IB through its contacts will approach the shortlisted investors and explain the opportunity to them on an informal basis. If the investor shows interest, then the teaser is shared with them. Then the sharing of information memorandum happens. So if the investors continue to show interest in the opportunity, the detailed information memorandum will be shared with them. A non-disclosure agreement will be signed between the investor and the client prior to sharing the information memorandum to ensure confidentiality. And then finally the presentation to the investors happen. So after having a look at the teaser, if the investor shows further interest, then IB will organize a meeting of the investor with the management of the client. In this meeting, IB will make a 20-page presentation about the client to the investor, which will be followed by one-to-one interaction of the investor with the management. So this is what takes shape in the stage 2. In the third stage, which is the non-binding offer stage, the time period is roughly 5 to 7 days, which is undertaken. So invitation of non-binding offer takes place in this stage, where a non-binding term sheet will be invited from the investors. The bidding process happens and the short list of potential investors do undertake at this stage. In the fourth stage is the due diligence stage, which where the time period is roughly around 30 days, and financial due diligence is undertaken over here. So financial due diligence is one of the most important processes in the transaction and is taken extremely seriously by the investors. The investor typically appoints an accounting firm to do a detailed financial due diligence. IB assists the client in preparing the data room for the financial due diligence and support the client in the entire due diligence process. Then comes the legal due diligence part, where a legal due diligence is an equally important process in the transaction. So a separate team of lawyers would be appointed for doing the legal due diligence. IB assists the client in preparing the data room for the legal due diligence and support the client in the entire due diligence process. Okay, and now let's look into stage 5, which is the stage of invitation of term sheets, negotiation and signing. This stage is roughly around for 15 to 20 days. Here the invitation of term sheets happen. So term sheets will be invited from invested investors. Then negotiation takes place. So IB will negotiate the valuation and the complicated terms with the investor on client's behalf. And finally, the signing of term sheet happens. So IB will assist the client to negotiate a final offer from the investor. And finally, stage 6, which is the closing stage. This is this stage is roughly for a period of 15 days. Signing of definitive agreements do undertake in this stage. So the definitive agreements is prepared by the lawyers of the investor. IB through its contacts will assist the client in appointing a competitive law firm to represent it in the final negotiation of the terms of the agreements. While the lawyers would take care of the legal aspects of the agreements, IB will play an important role in ensuring that all the commercial aspects of the terms agreed between the client and the investor are captured in the final agreements. And then its condition precedent. The definitive agreements will have certain standard and certain peculiar conditions precedents that would have to be made by the client before the funds are infused and the shares are allotted to the investor, by the investor, right? And finally, the closing part, where final negotiations happen and infusion of funds and allotment of share to the investor takes place, right? So so this is these are the 6 prior stages of the sales side activity which takes place in a investment banking arena, right? So stage 1 is internal preparation, stage 2 is roadshows with investors, stage 3 is non-binding offer, stage 4 is due diligence, stage 5 is invitation of term sheets, negotiation and signing, and stage 6 is closing, right? Now let's look on the buy side. So buy side is just a reflection of the sell side. So whatever activities the sell side takes place, activities are taken on the sell side part of it, the reverse happens on the buy side, right? So we are not really going very detailed over here, but just to give you a sense. So on stage 1, as identification of potential candidates is the prior objective, so which takes roughly around 15 to 20 days. In stage 2, shortlisting candidates, so the time period is roughly around 15 to 20 days. And stage 3 is initiate contact with potential seller, which takes place for roughly 5 to 10 days. And stage 4 is the non-binding offer, limited information is shared by the target, right? So these are the at the initial stage, these are the stages which is undertaken on the buy side, and post that whatever activity you get to see on the sell side, like say due diligence activity is undertaken. So on the buy side is basically the investor is basically going to give those pieces of information or try to extract information and get the transaction moving, right? So it's nothing more than just a reflection of what is like whatever sell side activity is undertaken, exactly the reverse activity happens on the buy side part of it, right? So this is just to give you a sense in brief as to what are the activities and what's the time period and what are the stages in a sell side and buy side activity. I hope it adds value to you, right? So thanks a lot guys for listening it out, and we'll surely meet in some other video, right? Thanks a lot. Bye.